Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and while LEGO DC may or may not be on the chopping block with us only getting a couple of sets a year, LEGO has been doing something with DC where they're celebrating the different eras of cinematic Batmans. From the original classic TV series to Michael Keaton's Batman to the Tumbler from The Dark Knight Rises, now we're getting a Batman Forever Batmobile. And say what you will about the movie, and I have a lot to say about that movie, I actually think the design of the Batmobile in that movie is really cool, and we're finally getting a LEGO version for the first time. So join me right now as we jump into a special look at the Batman Forever Batmobile. Okay, this is set number 76304, the Batman Forever Batmobile. It will retail for $100 when it releases on August 1st and comes with 909 pieces plus one minifigure, our first ever version of Batman from that movie. Of course, most of the focus is on the Batmobile itself, and in an interview, the designer Mark Stafford actually stated that they specifically chose to only include one minifigure so the rest of the budget could go into making the model as good as it could be, somewhat similar to Cole's Titan mech from Ninjago, which also was an $100 set focused on one really impressive build and just having one minifigure to go alongside it. This is decidedly a display piece rather than a play model. However, obviously it is a large car, so of course you can drive it around and really play with it like any other Batmobile, but there basically are zero other play features. There's no stud shooters, there's no rotating flames on the back. Basically what you see is what you get. You can't even really put the Batman minifigure inside of the car because the scales aren't 100% one-to-one. The Batmobile vehicle itself is kind of more of a midi scale in between what would be a minifigure scale car and something closer to the larger UCS style cars they've been putting out, so it absolutely is just meant as a display piece, but that all aside, I actually think this looks really good. This is a subject matter that, again, we have never seen LEGO tackle ever before, and nowadays it seems that LEGO is really trying to focus on honoring all of the different cinematic versions of Batman that have come in the past, so it's really cool to be able to get a Batmobile just like this one. It is a very unique design, with transparent blue elements factored into the build. It almost feels like H.R. Geiger-esque with the sort of exoskeleton all around the side of the Batmobile. Parts of it almost feel organic to me, and that's something that really stood out to me about this version of the Batmobile, is just how unique it looks compared to a lot of the other ones. Of course, you still have that classic Keaton and Tim Burton style influence, but then you're bringing in this new visual style and a life to it that feels very unique. And say what you will about the movie, which obviously was not one of the best Batman movies, but I do think the design of that Batmobile is a really solid and interesting design. It's very obvious that this was quite a challenge to depict in LEGO bricks. Honestly, I am really impressed by how this model is able to achieve the amount of complexity in the curvature, the angles, and the shaping that it pulls off. Almost the entirety of the front chassis of this vehicle is mounted at a very slight angle, which just looks really impressive as a final build because you don't typically see that sort of angle being used in a standard LEGO Batmobile build, where typically everything would just be studs up. There is just a very slight forward cant to the entire thing. Of course, you have studs in the side detailing for almost like those ribcage-like elements on the side. The back exhaust also looks really good with the 1x4 tiles just encircling that back engine, and while it would have been cool to have an attached fire element to shoot out of the back, I think it does look good on its own, especially because this is meant to be mostly a display piece. Inside the Batmobile itself, while again this is mostly a display piece, there are some fun little Easter eggs and hidden details to peek out and find. Of course, you have a bit of an engine right here, and what actually looks to be a bit of a gun turret too, so you can kind of use your imagination there depending on what you want it to be. That is a brand new printed element. The windscreen is the same as what's appeared in Speed Champions, but it is printed for this set. However, there is one brand new piece introduced in this set specifically, and it is this gigantic version of a pre-existing windscreen we have gotten from Speed Champions, but this one is just a lot larger. You've basically taken that element and scaled it up, which is really cool because it kind of looks like it fits within this family of elements. Inside the cockpit, you do have a fully detailed set of controls there with all the different speed dials, the steering wheel, and all of that. Unfortunately, some of the yellow pieces which make up the underside are visible when you're looking in. That is a bit of a con to me because I definitely would have expected that to be fully covered up, but it's not that big of a deal because then again, most times you're not even going to be looking in the cockpit. The side hubcaps also have exclusive printed elements, and they actually are a metallic blue color around the bat symbol there. It has a really nice shine to it and definitely feels very premium and deluxe for a set like this. On the back, two red elements are used, which I presume are supposed to be like the back lights, although they do look a little out of place to me just being bright red. But then as we move on to the front here, one thing I really want to point out is the usage of all sorts of different techniques to make pieces be mounted at very slight angles. You've got these slopes all being used in these tiles being used at very unique angles with a combination of hinge elements as well as some hidden details on the insides. You might notice that on the inside of this kind of front work of the body, you've got little bats inside of there, and that was a really fun surprise while building this model to see that they literally integrated the LEGO Bat piece inside of the vehicle, which also from a distance adds just a little bit of extra detail and kind of almost makes it look like it has some different types of machine work or some greebling on the inside, but when you zoom in, you'll see they are literally the LEGO Bat piece integrated into the model, which I think is super clever and just another one of those details I really love about this model. Altogether, you cannot deny that this is a remarkably well done vehicle. It actually might be one of my favorite Batmobiles in recent history, just thanks to the amount of detail, the angles, the shaping, the curvature, everything about it just is really good from almost all angles. Of course, the underside isn't the greatest, and it would have been nice to just have a series of plates just to cover up those white and yellow pieces, but again, you're never really going to be looking at the underside anyway, so for what it is, I actually really like this build. Now it's time to talk a bit about value. This retails for $100 and comes with 909 pieces. Altogether, I think on paper, that is admittedly pretty decent value. But to be completely honest, it definitely feels a little bit too expensive for what you get, just for me in particular. And I know, obviously, it's kind of hard to complain about this when we just got a really overpriced wave of LEGO Star Wars sets and even some other LEGO superhero sets that end up being really overpriced, but it feels to me that this is very close to maybe like a $90 or $85 set. When the build is said and done, I would say there are other $100 LEGO sets, like the aforementioned Cole's Titan mech, that just give you so much more when it comes to play patterns, value, and just the amount of stuff that you get in your hands after it's fully built. I definitely feel like this should have been closer to $85 or $90, but $100 isn't too far off, so honestly, I'm willing to give it a bit of a pass. If you can ever find it on a very slight discount, I would say this is absolutely a set I would recommend. But for $100, having the thing fully built in hand, I'm not quite sure if I'm seeing the value. We'll wrap up the review by taking a quick look at the exclusive minifigure included in the set, and this is the Batman Forever version of Batman. Honestly, I do like a lot of this figure, although I definitely do appreciate it because of the really great dual molded cowl. They've been using this cowl in recent modern Batman iterations for LEGO, and I actually really like it, especially as a modernized version of the Batman suit. It is dual molded in gunmetal gray and this light aqua blue color, which looks really good. But unfortunately, the face underneath is very generic. It's the Shang-Chi face, and they've used it for a ton of other characters as well, and honestly, I feel like it does fit some iterations of Batman. Of course, one side is serious and the other side is angry. I think they've also used it on like Draco Malfoy as well, but for this particular version of Batman, I am not super convinced. I think the most iconic thing about Val Kilmer's Batman is, well, the lips, and unfortunately, you don't really see those in this version of the minifigure. The suit itself is okay, and this is one of the times that I kind of am alright with no leg printing. I think the plain gunmetal gray legs, if they're really short on budget, they work just fine for this. But I would have loved to see a new face print specifically for this Batman that would have made it even more special. But it does make up for it by having a great cowl and that gunmetal rubberized cape as well. Altogether, I am a big fan of this set. I just wish it was a little bit cheaper, but honestly, the price isn't really that bad for me, and maybe I'm a little biased because just yesterday I reviewed all the LEGO Star Wars sets and I absolutely ripped into those for being remarkably, atrociously overpriced, so this feels very well priced in comparison. But $100 for what you get, in my opinion, not too bad. That's all for this review. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Let me know in the comments what do you think of this set, and bye for now.